Alright, welcome to the third part of the video series, probably the one that most people are looking forward to the most, which would be about single target rotation. So before we start, I want you to get three things if you don't have them already. The first one is the rage bar down here, where you can track your rage in a really convenient way and a really precise way. Um, yeah, for that you want to have like a weak aura. Like there is an add-on that is called weak aura. With this add-on you can make stuff like this. If you don't know what an add-on is, or if you don't know how to install them, you're going to pause the video right here and you're going to watch a guide on that, and you're going to install weak auras. So, and if you have installed weak auras, you go into your chat and you type in /WA, and then you have your this thing here will pop up, and here you can use my weak auras. I will post the link in the video description. So what you will do is you're going to click on the link. The link will bring you to Vago.io, and there you can import or copy a weak aura string and paste it into here. Then you click finish, and then you can import it and drag it anywhere you want. I suggest putting your weak aura for the rage bar as close to the center as possible, because tracking your rage is like one of the most important things. If you cannot track your rage, you are simply not able to play the spec as a reasonable potential. The same thing goes for the swing timer that will show you when your next alter attack is occurring. You are always working with your alter attacks when you're playing arms, or many specs that are melee are working with their alter attacks. So this is another must-have for you. It's a weak aura as well, so the same thing. You click in the description on the link for the swing timer. You get here, you import it, and then you drag it wherever you want to have it. So that's the first two things you got to do now if you don't have them already. And the third thing is that you are going to need to keybind every ability I'm going to mention in this video. So what keybind means, I don't know if I need to explain, but basically means that you can press the button on your keyboard and then in-game your ability will go off. So if you haven't done this already, you're going to need to do this, because there are situations in which you press slam and then you have 0.5 seconds not only to make a decision, but as well to click the button of heroic strike. And I think it's simply not possible with clicking your abilities. Alright, so now we have that out of the way, we can go and I can teach you the three ways of using slam. Because there are actually multiple ways you can use slam in certain situations. The first one, which is used for your basic rotation, will be right at the end of your swing timer. Like most people think that you have to wait until the swing timer is at 0, like I show you now. Oop. But that's not true. Due to latency, you can press your slam a little bit before it's ending. For me, it's right here. See, the white hit came out and the slam as well. Like I did it again. And here. This is due to latency, and this will depend on your connection, and this will change every second basically. See, if I spam cast slam, you can see this red bar in the cast bar sometimes, and this shows your latency. So you saw each cast, the latency was at a different stage. So you got to find out, or you got to figure out which there we got the big leg. So you got to figure out at which point you can press the button, push the button, um, to be safe that you're not missing the alter attack. For me, it's right here. If my latency is bad, I can press it even here, but this is not always the case, and since I haven't found a way to track my latency in my swing timer, like a tiny thing like in the cast bar that will show me my latency right now, yeah, I have to find this sweet spot where I can always save cast slam without losing out on my outer attack. So the next method is the delayed method, and this will only occur once in a while, and it's used if you get fed a lot of rage through boss mechanics or through many procs. And what it will do, how you do it is like, or what I mean by this is, let's say for example, you slam here, and you press whirlwind, and you not want to delay your mortal strike, then you press your mortal strike after your whirlwind. But this means that your next slam can only be casted a little bit delayed, which wouldn't be ideal for most situations, but if you have enough rage, you can do it sometimes. Alright, the next method, the last method I'm going to show you is I call the witch bitch method, and this is because you can only use it while you have a shit ton of rage available to you, or if you are in your cooldowns and you're simply predicting that a sword spec or wind fury will proc from your slams, so you get fed rage while you're spam casting slam. So this method can be used to spend the time between a mortal strike. So if I do mortal strike right here, and now I could witch bitch method cast slam 2 times like in a row, like spam casting it, to spend the time between the mortal strike cooldown. And yeah, I show you again this cast. Okay, I don't have enough rage right now, so that would be a failed use of the witch bitch method, but I think you get my point. Alright, now I'm going to read out the text to you, in which I have summarized everything you want to know about the arms rotation, about the basic rotation in general. And this is because I didn't simply find a better way for doing this, because there is a lot of knowledge, and it's more about, or it's about why you're going to do the things you are going to do in the rotation, so you can understand every thought process that goes inside of that, so you can adapt your rotation without me having to do it. Or yeah, so you have your own mind, and yeah, you're going to need to use it from time to time, and to know why you're doing the stuff you do enables that, of course. So the first goal of the arms warrior rotation is to get as many hits in with yellows and whites as possible to maximize the chances of sword spec and wind fury procs without overcapping your rage. So this is the main goal. You got to keep that in mind. Therefore, we clump up our abilities in a 1-2 punch combo right after the auto attack comes through. What makes it effectively a 3-hit combo, I guess. So this has 2 reasons. First, it's because Wind Fury procs are resetting the swing timer, which would result in less hits and less rage, which would result in less hits again. So this makes sense, I guess, if you are like we are depending right now that this is the swing timer. Here, the rage bar is the swing timer right now. So you do your 1-2-3 combo, so the auto attack comes through, you cast your slam, then you cast, for example, whirlwind, and you slam, your timer would be here, and if you wait 1.5 seconds, which is your GCD, to cast another spell, your auto attack timer would be here. So if this spell you pressed right now is proccing a wind fury, it will reset your timer back to full which would mean that you lose half an auto attack and an opportunity to perfectly cast your slam. And this is obviously not ideal because we want to get as many hits in as possible, and cancelling half an hit is not a good idea. Cancelling a hit that feeds your rage and enables you to slam is even a better idea. So second, if you do one more global after your 3-hit combo, you will delay your next slam so much that you can only use the delayed slam method, which is only available in very rare cases. So you remember the delayed slam method, and yeah, this is like another reason to do it in the 3-hit combo, like to clump the abilities up, because yeah, if you press a button right here, the global cooldown will be very long, and then you cannot perfectly cast your slam. So even if you're not getting punished for the Wind Fury proc that is occurring, you're getting punished through you are not able to be through the fact that you're not able to use your slam efficient, which would be then the delayed casting method of slam, which is not a part of the basic rotation one. This is about the basic rotation. So how do we tackle this goal? Well, first of all, we really need to perfect the first method of slamming, which would be the efficiency method. Without being able to do this, everything that I will tell you next or told you by now might be wrong depending on your gear. If we now have mastered the art of slam, we can relax a little bit because now we can exercise the basic rotation, which will be relatively easy. It will get more complicated if we factor in the special methods you need to know to avoid overcapping rage or capitalizing on constantly getting fed rage via boss mechanic that damage you. But don't worry, we talk about those and more later. So, yeah, you need to first get down the slam timing before you can practice the basic rotation efficiently. Like if you're missing the skill on casting slam, you can't really effectively train the rotation. So I would suggest uh, doing this maybe right now before you continue. Okay, basic rotation. What you do is you cast slam after each auto attack, and then you cast rather mortal strike or whirlwind, depending on the rage you have after slamming. If you have 30 rage plus, you use mortal strike. If you have less or mortal strike is on CD, you use whirlwind. This will change with your gear and your buffs. If you're finding yourself getting rage starved too much because your gear is not good enough, you will use whirlwind instead of mortal strike. Using mortal strike on first prior has some benefits. First of all, your mortal strike deals more damage upfront. Second of all, it has less CD than whirlwind, which means that you can get more hits in with this method, which is, if you remember, the first priority for the arms rotation. So now we are at this point. You remember first priority, getting as many hits in as possible. Mortal Strike has a lower cooldown than Whirlwind, so you want to hit them more often. And yeah, if you are able to do that because you get enough rage, this is this is the preferred method or the preferred priority. Due to the fact that Mortal Strike has less CD then Whirlwind means that if you lose opportunity to cast it, the overall DPS of the ability will suffer far more than the overall DPS of Whirlwind if we look at the percentage-based values. So, like, I might have to explain this a little bit more in detail. Mortal Strike has 6-second cooldown, Whirlwind has 10-second cooldown. So if we lose 3 seconds of Mortal Strike because we are delaying it, we are losing 50% of Mortal Strike's value. If we are delaying Whirlwind by 3 seconds, we lose 30% of the value of the DPS value. This comes in even stronger if we factor in that Mortal Strike is dealing more damage than Whirlwind. So sure, Mortal Strike costs 10 to 5 more rage depending on your T4 set bonus, but like I said, if you have enough rage you can afford that. Plus more rage cost can be an upside as well, because that way you make yourself less likely to overcap on rage. So if your gear is good and your buffs are there, you are constantly fighting with overcapping rage, so the bonus cost on Mortal Strike can actually be an upside for that, because if you overcap rage you need to cast Heroic Strike, which wouldn't be ideal. It's necessary, but it's not really ideal. So why is Slam the first prior, you might think? Is Slam not delaying your auto attack and therefore interferes with our first priority? Yes, that's true. That it will delay our auto attack, but on the other hand, Slam only costs 15 rage and deals a crap ton of damage, plus it enables us to do the free hit combo, because while you're casting Slam, your GCD is running already, which means that your free hit combo will come out in a shorter time than if you would do it without the ability. So what I mean by that is, when you're starting to cast Slam, it casts 0.5 seconds, so the GCD is already running. If the Slam hit comes out, you have 1 second on your GCD left, which means that after casting Slam, 1 second after that, you cast Mortal Strike. So the last 2 hits of the 2-hit combo are only 1 second apart from each other. And if you would do it without Slam and other abilities, the 2 hits would be 1.5 seconds apart from each other, which wouldn't be that good. So yeah, and that's another reason why it's so important to get the Slam timing of the efficient method as close to perfection as possible, because you are using it all the time, and if you're casting 50 slams and or 30 slams, and every time you use it, you use it not in the correct way, you're using out on a lot of hits, and therefore you are damaging or crippling the first priority on your basic rotation list. Okay, let's talk about the situations you use Heroic Strike, or with other words, how to stop yourself from overcapping rage. At the end, I of course will show some basic rotation and stuff, but first we get all the theoretic stuff out of the way. I think it's the word, I don't know. So let's talk about Heroic Strike. Okay, if you see on my wage bar, I have a mark here, and this is, if this mark is reached, I use Heroic Strike basically. So if you copy my rage bar, you will have this as well. If you use another rage bar over like your rage bar, the way you can put this on your rage bar is you click on add tick, adding tick or something like this. I don't know how it's called in English, but I think it's something like add tick. So then you click this, and then you have here the tick, and you can place the value at what value the tick needs to be, and it needs to be at 85. Depending a little bit on your gear. If your gear is very bad, for example, your tick would be at 90 and not at 85. So it's basically the rage you get with a non-critical auto attack. Yeah, you use that number, and then you take your rage bar, your full rage bar, like 100, and then you divide the 100 by the number your auto attack is doing, and that's the number of rage. If you have this, you use your Heroic Strike. So you use the Heroic Strike if you have above 85 rage and your next auto attack would come in so that your auto attack is not overcapping. So because you used heroic strike, the auto attack will not generate any rage. So, and there is another event that can happen, and that is if your auto attack that you will follow up with your 3-hit combo will push you about this threshold. So right now this will occur, ping, and then you use the heroic strike while you are casting slam. You cannot do it another way, because if you are having an heroic strike queued and you press slam, it will cancel the heroic strike that is queued, like you see here. So you gotta do it while your slam is casting, like this. After your slam comes through, you hit your mortal strike or your whirlwind. And if your heroic strike was not triggered, it will get triggered if you proc, if your slam procs in Sword Spec or Wind Fury. Then this heroic strike you queued while casting slam will be triggered and will not generate rage. That's why you do it. And if it doesn't triggers, you need to cancel it before you cast Mortal Strike. Like I do right now, like I show you right now. One more time. I cancel it and then Mortal Strike. One more time. Cancel, Whirlwind. And one more time. Cancel, Mortal Strike. So, this is like the most difficult part of the rotation. And yeah, how you going to cancel the heroic strike? I use a macro for that. That is stop attack, and after that immediately start attack. There might be a macro that is like stop cast heroic strike or something like this. I tried to write a macro like this. I looked it up on the internet, but it didn't work for me. I don't know why. Maybe it doesn't work on TBC Classic. You have to look for yourself. If it doesn't work, I got you covered with my macro, but there might be an easier way as well. So that's the opportunities for heroic strike. Now let's talk about the opportunities in which you would use the witch pitch method. And this is simply if you are having recklessness running. For example, you are in your cities, you do your auto attack slam, and you still got like 60 rage, and your mortal strike has like 2 seconds left on city. You cast 2 slams, and then you can cast mortal strike safely after that, because you had 60 rage. So even if you do not proc anything, the 2 cast of slam will not rage starve you. But if you proc something in these 2 slams, like an extra hit, you will actually get fat rage, and therefore you can continue even more. Sometimes you can just witch pitch method a lot while cooldowns, depending on your proc luck. So the next way to use witch pitch method, of course, if you are standing constantly in fire, so you get fed a lot of rage, so you don't need to ultra attack to sustain your rage. That's one situation where you would use witch pitch method as well. You can, if the rage that gets fed to you through the boss mechanic, like standing in fire or standing in a cave in on Gruul, is feeding you enough rage, you can even couple this up with the heroic strike trick I told you about before. So let's talk what you're going to do in execute phase. So in execute phase, you ideally want to swap to a good one-hander, to 2 good one-handers. It has to be a sword or an axe, depending on what you are spec. If you're sword spec, you want to have 2 swords the fast one in your offhand and the slow one in your main hand. Or if you have X specialization, you want to get two good X's. So if because these two weapons will produce a lot of rage when and you can just spam executes like this with Wind Fury and maybe a haste potion. You can or like a second Bloodlust. You can dish out a lot of damage in the execute phase, like almost like a dual wield. If you don't have access to one-handers, or you don't want to because you are playing arms to dealing damage with a two-hander and not to dual wield, this is fine. Then you would just use your normal rotation. But if you haven't, if your Mortal Strike or your Whirlwind is not available, you use Execute to complete your 3-hit combo. So that's why I have this benchmark right here. If I this is 30 rage, so I know if I am on at this point, I can slam after the auto attack and then use execute. So you basically want to use execute as your 3-hit combo finisher, but only if these both are on CD, like Whirlwind and Mortal Strike are on CD, unless there's one situation where you want to use execute over Whirlwind or Mortal Strike, is if your execute will drain only, like, cause only 15 rage. Like if you auto attack slam, you got 15 rage left, you press execute. If you have 20 rage left, you press Whirlwind. If you have 20 rage left and your Whirlwind is on cooldown, you press execute. If you have 30 rage left after you slam and your auto attack, you press Mortal Strike. So that's how you tackle execute phase with the two-hander. So when do you use Overpower? Overpower is used when you lose less than 20 rage from your stance swapping. So you swap stance and then you lose rage because you only keep 10. And if you lose 20 or less, you're going to swap and overpower. So there's one event that can occur when you do it. It's your overpower proccing an extra hit and will fed your rage. This can result in you sitting in battle stance after you swapped from Berserker stance. Now you sit in battle stance, you have pressed Overpower and you have like 50 or more rage, so you don't want to go back to Berserker stance immediately. You want to dump your rage as fast as possible to swap back to Berserker stance without losing too much rage. While all of this is happening, like while you are dumping your rage in battle stance, there can be more overpower procs, and if that is the case, you actually are gaining DPS through that. Especially keep in mind that next year we get tier 5, and the 2 set bonus will increase our attack power by 100 for 5 seconds after we use Overpower. So it's right now a good opportunity to it's a good idea to train your eyes to spot those opportunities for the Overpower, because you're getting a benefit next year. In addition to that, your the set bonus that is making your Whirlwind stronger because it lowers the rage cost will shift to your main ability, to your Mortal Strike. So this means that Berserker stance is even less important because Whirlwind gets a lot worse compared to Mortal Strike, and Mortal Strike is of course available in battle stance. So it's definitely worth training for the Overpower opportunities. So when do you use your cooldowns? Well, that depends a lot on the boss fight. So if you are most of the time you just want to couple your CDs with vulnerabilities of the boss, like if Magteridon casts his Blast Nova and he gets interrupted, you want to use your CDs on this. If your group is pulling Bloodlust while this is happening, it's even better. So you want to pair it with Bloodlust, your CDs that is. You want to pair it with invulnerability phases. You want to pair it with adds coming that you can cleave. You want to pair it sometimes with execute phase. So that's there's no simple answer to that. So one special fact about the Orc ability, the Orc racial, is that it's on a global cooldown. So if I press Mortal Strike, I need to wait 1.5 seconds like to press the Orc ability. However, the Orc ability will not trigger the global cooldown of the other abilities. So if you use your damage cooldowns, keep in mind that you use your Orc racial first if you are an Orc. So if you're making a macro for your damage abilities, you put this in first and then you put in Death Wish. Because if you do it the other way around, you lose 1.5 seconds uptime on your cooldowns. The another thing is that you use your CDs 1.5 seconds before your auto attack is coming through. Because your CDs, your big CDs, are triggering global cooldowns, and your global cooldown is 1.5 seconds, so you use them so that you can immediately do your 3-hit combo with the auto attack that comes after 1.5 seconds. So the quick disclaimer: all this only applies. Everything I said, or the most things I said, only apply to Wind Fury. To if you would have Wind Fury. If you don't have Wind Fury, many of what I said is not really true. Same goes for axe specialization. Some things are changing while playing axe instead of sword, especially without Wind Fury. So keep that in mind, please. There's still a lot to learn, and you should have Wind Fury anyways, but if you don't, you'll need to think a little bit yourself until the video for non-Wind Fury rotation is out. This will come after the multi-target rotation video, because it's not that important, because you should have Wind Fury in the first place, and if you don't really do damage anyways. So at the end of this video, like right now, I will show some clips of me training, exercising with this lucky man over here, and will like pin on mistakes or good plays I made, like with small texts. There will be something like, here is a missed opportunity, I should have done this, or here I used the heroic strike trick, so that's very good, stuff like this. So I hope you enjoy the practical rotation part, and I got to say, you need to exercise a lot. So you might want to come here to the Blasted Lands, or you want to go on a private server, but I don't really recommend, because they have values wrong and stuff like this. So I recommend you going to these guys. These guys are very low level, so they will not parry or dodge. So you cannot really train over exercise for the Overpower thing, but you will crit a lot on them, which means that you will get fed a lot of rage, which is good, because in the raid scenario you will also get fed a lot of rage, because you take damage and you have Wind Fury. Here you have no Wind Fury and you have no crit buffs and stuff, and these guys will make you produce more rage, so you can exercise the rotation better than if you would on a normal dummy without any buffs. So that's all for me to talk, and we see each other in the displayed rotations right now and in the next video for the ARE thingies.